Do we have any citizens' comments? None? All righty.
Motion to adopt one.
Second. A motion by Mr. Smith to adopt the agenda. Approval of item 3, Roman numeral 3, second by Mr. Northoff. All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, Mrs. Allen. First reading of policy JQK, student exchange.
Hi, good evening. I'm here to present to you the first reading of policy JQK, which is exchange students. So there has been a lot of conversation about our district accepting exchange students. We've had a few inquiries over the last, I'd say the last couple of years, and we did a little bit of research in terms of how that looked in the past, what were the trends. And so we also looked at what our neighboring counties were doing as well. So I decided to do a little bit of research to see what policy was out there. And we have some really great policies that were pretty good models, but we decided to go with this one. And so instead of it being a longer policy, we kept the policy itself general, but we created a the regulation that really tells you about the criteria. So I think you have before you the policy, the regulation, as well as a sample exhibit. And the sample exhibit is an actual application form that would need to be completed. And then documents would need to be reviewed prior to students being approved for an exchange program with our school district.
And so this is the first reading, so it's just an item of information. But like Ms. Allen mentioned, the documents are there. That way, if we do need to change a regulation or exhibit, we don't have to come back to the board to make those changes. But this is for us establishing the policy for exchange students. There was a time that Gainesville accepted exchange students, but it has been a while. We could not find, I believe, any confirmation, probably about 20 years. And so we've had more requests and more requests. They do have to go through a sponsoring agency. Usually a family will reach out to us and say, hey, I went through this experience 20, 30 years ago, and now my friend's daughter is a part of it, wants to come to the US to do it. We get a few of these a year. And so we want to be able to do it where we can do it on a case-by-case basis versus just a blanket approval.
John, you're familiar with our Rotary clubs and
Yes, sir.
their exchange programs that they sponsor and host every year.
I'm not familiar with their exchange program, but I'm familiar with Rotary.
Would you mind doing a little bit of research on the, it's actually through Rotary International, whereby more students come here to live for essentially a school year and live with what they call host families who are Rotarians. So you don't mind, would you do a little research on their Rotary International? And then secondly, if I saw the mention of a tuition requirement, if a pipeline student, exchange student comes here and seeks a high-flying academic program that we might offer, but said students, host family does not live in the city, then might we also somehow at least acknowledge that we can accept a student who lives in a home county family with a home county family and pay tuition.
Okay, that's certainly something that
Any other questions from Ms. Allen? Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you.
All right, we got a item 5, several action items. First of all, I'll turn it over to Dr. Williams.
Yeah, just an item we bring to you every year, and it is the legislative positions from the Georgia School Board Association. And in the process, we do not quite have all the final details for the summer conference, but we typically send 2 delegates to that conference to vote on our behalf. So what I'm bringing forward to you tonight are the legislative positions as well as any discussion nominating and approving a chair or two individuals to serve as our delegates for the summer.
Willie? Andy?
That's fine with me. It's fine with Mr. Woods.
Motion to delegate chairman and Mr. Mitchell and adopt the legislative priorities.
Got a motion by Mr. Smith to adopt the priorities and choose the delegates.
Second.
Got a second by Dr. Ramsey. All those in favor? Motion carries. Dr. Rufus. To discuss our Gainesville City School System Charter System Renewal Application.
Board members, as Dr. Rivers comes up, please take the application and pass it on down. No, we're not going to read this tonight. However, we'd like to get it read. We'll start reading it. when we get it.
When do you want us to read this, Dr. Lee?
Please read.
Yeah, I'll do a quick overview.
Yeah.
Let you know.
It was in our package.
Yes, yes.
How often do we have to apply for renewal?
Well, the last contract we had was for 10 years. This one is for 5 years. And I think from this point on, it will be 5 years.
We were one of the last districts to get it. And they, actually, my first year here, they asked me if the following year, if we wanted to terminate our 10-year charter contract and reapply for a 5, and we said no. They said, we'll wait for the total 10 years to be up.
So we're asking,
So you're also saying we have been a charter system for 15 years?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we're asking for approval to submit this application. And this application will take effect July 1st, and it will go through June 30th, 2028.
Does the State Board of Education approve these, or
Yes.
or is it an admin?
State board, they'll have a committee similar to, but not as intense as our economy year review. But similar to that, we will have a meeting with a committee from DOE and the charter system.
But some of the question categories were the same as we got on the,
Economy,
yeah.
yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're actually trying to get it to where you're on that same 5-year cycle with both. And so that's kind of why we decided to wait, because we just finished COGI last March. And so this year was the first year. Now we have the new 5 years. So one kind of follows the other.
And in your opinion, I am preempting your report.
No, that's thank you.
What is the best reason for us to be a charter system?
For me, the flexibility that the district has from some of the rules that other districts who are not charter will have. So as far as accountability issues, the district can say how we want to meet certain things. And if they approve this contract, then we don't have to go through it every year for the next 5 years. So that's one of the biggest reasons. This is the first system I've worked in that has been charter. So I'm not as well versed as some of those who've been in it since the beginning, since this district was one of the first who became a charter in 2008.
I think they have been the first.
We were along with, I believe, Marietta City, Decatur
Decatur.
City, and one county.
Yeah.
There were 4 with the initial charter. We have 1 of them.
Motion to approve.
I have one quick question, Dr. Roots. So I see that we list all of our schools in here. Is the charter done by system or by school? By system. So we did this 10 years ago and we added Gainesville Middle School West.
Yeah.
They were automatically included because they were part of our system.
Yeah, and board members, you'll notice in there what our innovations were 10 years ago. And when you look at those, we basically give an update that we were fully implemented, or partially implemented, or one in particular ongoing. And a lot of that ties back to technology. You think about how much technology has changed in the last decade. We wanted to remove that. And we wanted to say, well, what are the 5, in our case, 5 minimal things we can do as a charter system over these next 5 years? And as you look through it, if you want to read through the innovative ways we are serving our kids now, you will see that kind of near the first part of it. And then you'll see our 5 innovations as we move forward, the personal develop and implement a non-traditional high school. The needs of our students kind of demands that, and you'll see some progress there. We also are looking at redesigning our gifted and talented services, especially at the elementary level and middle school level. Innovation number 3 is redesign career pipeline for special education students. We do a great job of workforce development and work-based learning and items like that, but we feel like we have maybe an underserved need that we're not addressing. Our special education students, they participate in those programs, but just intentionally approaching it. We want to step up that work. Another one is increased student and family engagement through community partnerships. That is there to kind of growing what we do with the hub, extending it out to the Butler Center, and those opportunities. The Innovation 5 is create and implement an internal administrative pipeline. We know that we talk a lot about the pipeline with teachers, and where some things we're doing now to be creative with that. Now we want to take that same idea to the next level from growing our own administrators internally, so that we can really build capacity there. We are not tied to these 5. We can always add more and grow as we go throughout the 5 years. And towards the end of the document, you'll see kind of a budget breakdown of where some of those funds will be going, because we do receive about $1 billion from the state to be a charter system.
You have a sample resolution on page 34, motion to adopt.
All right, we got a motion to, are there any other questions? We got a motion to adopt the resolution to renew our charter status by Mr. Smith, got a second by Mr. Mitchell. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Rufus. Ms. Sanders, you will approach to discuss secondary science resource adoption.
I'm coming before you tonight to ask for the recommendation of secondary science resources in the amount of $637,620.54. To give you a little bit of background, with the science resource adoption, we adopted 6 years ago, K through 12. So that 6-year adoption ends this year. So we, similar to what Dr. Sears explained at our last board meeting, we had a comprehensive team of science teachers from both middle schools and the high school to review vendors. They used a pretty extensive rubric, and they decided to go with SAVIS. It's different from what K through 5 picked, but they're going with SAVIS, which involves Pearson and Prentice Hall, some of our traditional textbook adoption companies. In addition to those, we have some singleton courses at the high school that are not offered through SAVIS. So we have a few additional purchases that we have to make for some of our AP courses. In addition to those, this also includes a contract with Scholastic for literacy to embed that within science, and Gizmos Learning Lab, which also includes virtual labs for all of our science courses. So this adoption would include the professional development for all of the teachers. Every student would have a textbook for all of their courses and a digital subscription for the next 6 years. So that is our request to recommend the purchase of these secondary science materials for $637,620.54.
Tanya, what are the singleton classes?
Okay, so those include all of our AP courses, so AP Environmental Science, AP Biology, it also AP Chemistry. It also includes singleton courses that are not AP. They're called Zoology, Forensic Science, and Human A&P. Yeah. And some of the courses were offered through SAVIS, such as zoology, but for our students that are going into that course in 9th grade, the reading level needs to be a little more accessible to them. So they reviewed 3 different zoology textbooks and decided to go with the one that's McGraw-Hill.
So you've got a major vendor and less major vendors.
And the ones that
How will they work together, or will they?
the ones that we chose for AP are really aligned more with College Board and what the colleges are using, and that's Bedford. It's BFW. I cannot remember the whole name of the company, but that's for the AP courses. But McGraw-Hill is pretty much a mainstream course a vendor that would be aligned with what we already have. We actually renewed that zoology textbook from what we had before, so they're going with McGraw-Hill again.
On the Savas bill, estimate cover page, they showed a column of free services.
Yes, they're doing professional development every year for us, so they will do not just the first year, but for new teachers who are coming in each year. In addition to that, the shipping and handling, there is none embedded within that. They waived that for Savas. And there's the 6-year digital subscription to all of the courses.
And one of the biggest challenges that science versus ELA and math is ELA and math all build on each other throughout the year. So you're getting something that's comprehensive versus science. We know when we go from biology class to a chemistry class, there may be some texts that lean themselves better towards an upper level class versus an entry level.
Right. Savas is very accessible for mainstream students, right in the middle, average through the middle. But for McGraw-Hill, they catered more to our struggling readers, and then BFW catered more towards the AP courses with higher rigor to prepare them for college courses.
Somebody, you mentioned a group of teachers, how many?
We had one lead from the middle school, both of the middle schools and the high schools, so 3, but they had to, on our teacher work day, meet, their department had to come through, preview all the materials, and they also went through and did the rubric on all the vendors as well. And we went through 7 vendors.
So essentially, all science teachers have the opportunity
Yes.
to be a part of this selection.
Yes. And it was a 2.5-month period of reviewing the materials.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of Mr. Sanders? There a motion to
adopt.
Got a motion to adopt by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Mitchell. All those in favor? Thank you, Ms. Sanders. All right, Mrs. Ray.
As you guys are well aware, we are in year 3 of the American Rescue Plan, or also known as the ARP Act, or sometimes referred to as ESSER, which is the Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Funds. And as a requirement of receiving these funds, we have to review the plan and request feedback every 6 months. And we are currently in our 4th review. And so if you look at the document that you have, it should look very familiar because I've shared it before to show you the purchases that we've made. But the one thing that is different is you'll see that there are some items that are listed in blue. Those are new items that we are getting ready to purchase. Some of them may have already been in the plan, but we're just now getting around to purchasing them. And some of them we've included based on feedback, such as the science curriculum, from our district staff, school governance councils. And I have a couple of other things I want to share, but I did want to ask if you have any questions on this before I share a couple of other things.
When this request came to, was the request also, or did you interpret their request to include quantification, quantity, dollar?
For these items, yes. Mhm. Yes, because we have to budget for them.
Okay, that's, it's not on here for us.
No.
Okay,
Think about this.
amend this and shoot it back out to the please. And I also think, at some point, we had. Yeah. Somewhere we had a discussion up here about what did we receive, what have we spent, what is our balance?
She's got it.
I got that for you too. That was nice. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. If you will amend this for us, please.
Gladly.
Thank you.
Okay. And then just so you guys know, we currently have about 13.1 million left of the original 19.6 million that we were granted through the ARP funds.
That's just ESSER 3.
Yeah, that's just.
That's not 1 and 2.
Correct.
Those are spent.
Yes.
This is just 3.
This is just 3. And after we make the purchases that are outlined here in blue, we'll have around 9.3 million left. But then we've also got some purchases coming up this summer. We've got summer school. We've got the enrichment camps with Quinlan and Alachi, We are still paying for tutoring services. We are paying mental health clinician salaries. We are purchasing supplies for the mental health clinicians. So we do still have some things that we're going to be spending the funds on.
And not just this summer, but the following summer as well. So from a
Yeah.
grant period standpoint, the ESSER two funds actually finished last year. And then we had this year for carryover. So that's why they will all be spent. But these funds, we actually call it really in June, then we have a year for carryover funds to be spent. So that's why we've tried to pace this out over the course of a few years to leave room to purchase student devices for kids. So we'll still be able to do summer school the way we've done it the last couple of years for the next 2 summers, including the Watching, Quinlan, college visits, and all of that. We've been very intentional. The only personnel paid out of this right now are the mental health conditions. We've been very intentional to not pay personnel out of it. Some of my colleagues that are superintendents in the area and across the state, a lot of their funds are spent towards personnel. But when these funds are gone, that's a hard discussion to have with personnel. So we intentionally did not go that route outside of a handful of positions, which is why you see a lot of these other individual items popping up in purchases.
And you said after those additional purchases, you just identified we have 9 million and
Around 9.2, 9.3 million. And then also, just in case you hear it in the news or something, the state is actually trying to get a waiver from the federal government to extend the spending even further out, just because there is such a large amount of unspent funds across the whole state. So you might hear more about it, and you may see more information about it in future years.
Yeah, to give you an idea, the solid endorsement that we paid for, then we paid employees to have it, that came out of ESSER two and ESSER three. So we're able to use it out of both funds and really add some value to the district.
Ms. Pepper, none of this becomes a part of your monthly financial statement, does
No, not at this time.
However, the auditors during this visit, of course, are auditing ESSER three funds from last school year. So it does go through an auditing process when the auditors come in.
Yeah.
But it is not part of our monthly report.
planting a seed?
And if you
Maybe
guys,
quarterly.
and if you guys have any feedback, you're welcome to give that to me, to Dr. Williams. And there's also a link on our federal programs page on our website where you can actually find the plan and a link to the feedback form.
And we do share this information.
And let me clarify too, we do appreciate on our funds requests, we do appreciate whenever you list the source.
Mhm.
It's always helpful.
One of the things we do with this is we share with principals who then share with their governance councils within their next meeting. So anytime we do feedback, we also give it out to them to encourage them to give us feedback. And you've seen some of the adjustments in blue based on that feedback.
All right, do we have the motion to adopt Mr. Smith's amendment?
Do you need adoption?
Yeah, it's an action item.
Motion to adopt.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Mitchell. All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Niles is coming forward to discuss some maintenance issues and some acquisition of some security equipment.
Right, our first one this evening is flooring replacement at New College, Cornell Academy. We started DCT to LVT flooring replacements about 3 years ago, started at Centennial. We've done the entire school flooring replacement, and then we will follow the following summer with painting. So we've done flooring at GEA. This summer we'll do painting. This is to do flooring at New Holland. Next summer we would do painting at New Holland. Put it out for quotes. We had AAA commercial flooring give us a price of $330,731, and DCO flooring as well at $386,639. So we're recommending a superintendent award contract to AAA flooring in that amount.
quick question, Mr. Niles, how long does this type of flooring usually last? What are we looking at last cycle?
from what we've seen, districts, that's gone to it, LVT flooring, it's lasting 18, 20 years. And that's what the plan is, to go throughout all of our school buildings, especially our classrooms, and replace the VCT tile with LVT.
And that's also what's gonna be done this summer with Gainesville High School. So
You're going to see that it's continual in Lakeville, walked in there, GEA, a few others.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
got a second by Mr. Norrells. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, the new security camera.
Right. The next one is new security camera installation at Centennial Arts. Centennial has two different systems. In the new building, it does have IP-based cameras. In the older building, it has old analog cameras. So this request is to totally change out all of the cameras throughout the entire campus, bring them into one system. Telecom Advocates gave us a price at $56,632 out of Roswell, Atlanta. DataWise Communication, 1850 Thompson Bridge Road, $58,640.88, comes out of our capital projects fund. We're recommending awarding contract to DataWise Communication at $58,640.
Motion to approve. Got a motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
a second by Dr. Ramsey. The timeline on that item.
We're actually gonna try and shoot and have it done during spring break.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, one last item from Mr. Knight.
Okay, our next one is, I mentioned earlier, entire school painting interior there at GA. We had Classic City Painting to give us a price. GEA at 109, 481.25. And then Gainesville Middle School East at 193, 475, for their total of 302, 956.25. Ted Quinn gave us a price, Gainesville Middle School East at 240,000. And then 180,000 for GEA, bringing their total to 420,000. So we're recommending both Gainesville Middle School East and GEA total interior painting to Classic City Painting in the amount of 302,956. And the plan is that both of these buildings would be done during the summer.
I believe GMS East, that also includes classrooms.
Yes, sir. It's the total building.
And when was the last time the classrooms were painted at GMS East?
Classrooms has not been painted. Always have,
So-
I think twice.
You imagine the kids that went to GMS West and all of that, that they've got the new building, new everything. And so we're seeing now some of the comparisons between the schools, so we're trying to make sure we can bring the other school up to speed.
Will summer school be housed at least?
Portion of it, yes. So they'll start downstairs and not way
Yeah.
up. Work around summer school.
Motion. I've got a motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
got a second by Dr. Ramsey. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Niles. Do we have any discussion items?
Two items for me, Mr. Chairman. We have an invitation, open invitation to visit the Junior Achievement Center in Cumming. Every school board in our RISA region, it has or is visiting. The center hosts 6th and 7th graders every year on a field trip. Ours have already been. Now the director is inviting us. So when I mentioned this over to Dr. Williams, I added, can it qualify for a board training session? And he says yes.
We'll find a way.
So I want to mention it. The director has not sent over suggested dates yet. but she will, so I want to just mention that the invitation is coming and it can qualify as a training session. So it'd be about the same 3 hours.
We travel, visitation and back.
It'd be the same 3 hours that we spend here.
Be exceptional.
We're working our way towards exemplary.
Perhaps even memorial. So it's coming. So let's be aware of it and let's get a bus and a driver and
I will take the van.
get our
New vans.
Okay, that's good. Second thing, for all of your calendars, you will be invited to a reception on March 28th to honor GHS graduate Tommy Aaron. Details are coming, but it's going to be a nice gala reception on the early afternoon, early evening of March 28th.
We celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Masters Run.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this from anybody else? Have a motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Norcross, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Thanks, everyone.